Hello, everybody. My name is Curtis, and I am here with another live stream. This is Wednesday afternoon. Here on the West Coast, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3:13 to be very precise. And I have some epics to show. I'm not, it's kind of, my light isn't positioned very well for you. So we're in the dark in my little cave here, my cave of comics. As you can see, I've got a few epic collections behind me there, and I've got a couple more to add to the wall. And I also have in this one a DC Finest. So I think we're going to take a look at both of them today, some epic collections and a DC Finest, and we'll talk about them. If you are watching on the chat, leave me a comment, say hi, where are you from, and what are you reading right now? Be very interested to know. Um, Looks like I got my buddies James and Max on the over in the chat right now. It's good to see both of you lurking over there. It's always nice to see some friends. Tom from Madison, Wisconsin. Hi, Tom. Good to see you as well. Let's see. I'm going to do the DC Finest first. Hope that's okay with you. I'm going to open this one up, see what it's like. This is one that I've been looking forward to, actually. Well, I've been looking forward to all of them. What can I say? But Supergirl. So I ordered both Aquaman and Supergirl at the same time, and I've only got Supergirl so far. Not no sign of Aquaman. Hi, Phil. I know you're a fan of this, Phil. This is your era. This is the stuff that you love the most. Is this era of comics, and this is a welcome surprise to get this one first. Which is fine because I actually am more interested in this than Aquaman. This is DC Finest Supergirl, the Girl of Steel, and this one is. Let me see here. There's a lot. There's a lot to say. Action Comics 252 to 288, Adventure Comics 278, Superman 139 and 140 and 144, Superboy 80, plus her other guest appearances, which um, Tom says, I hear this has stories not in the Supergirl omnis. That's right. These are the stories not in the omnis. It says other guest appearances in Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane numbers 14 and 20, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen 40, 46, and 51 and 57. Now, I'm assuming that that's because those ones are actually just guest appearances and not titled Supergirl, because the way that those comics worked back then is they were you got a lot of kind of shorter stories in one um in one magazine or one comic. So Action Comics, of course, had a lead story, Superman, but then it also had a backup feature, Supergirl. So those are the ones that are actually titled Supergirls. Those stories are the ones in the omnis. The ones from um, Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane, those are the ones where just Supergirl appears, and it's not a Supergirl titled adventure, and those ones are not in the omnibus. So, you know, I know you're a spontaneous guy, but you got to give us at least 10-minute warning sometimes. Ha! Too bad. I don't play that way. Hi, Curtis. Did you buy the Thor by J. Michael Straczynski Omni so you could have Siege in reading order with Thor issues, and the Matt Fraction Thor Omni so you could have Fear itself to read between Thor and Journeys into Mystery Loki? I did not buy either of those Omnis. I have Marvel Unlimited, so I actually just read those issues on Marvel Unlimited as I was going through those books. But I actually just recently I bought the Siege trade paperback because I found it in the comic book store. So I, gonna have to flip between those books, but I'd rather uh, I'd rather just have the epic collections and supplement it with some other stuff. So anyway, let's take a look inside this. Classic artwork. Um, Very Silver Age, of course. This is 1959 to 1962, so we are right in the middle of the Silver Age here. And this is stories by Otto Binder. Let's see some of these credits here. Otto Binder writes pretty much all of this stuff. with Jerry Siegel, of course, one of the co-creators of Superman, filling in, writing a bunch of these stories as well. And a lot of the artwork by Jim Mooney. Not the whole thing, but a lot of it by Jim Mooney. And he does a cool. I'm assuming this is Jim Mooney here, although this kind of looks like a almost a Wayne Boring type of chest. Wayne Boring gave Superman a very, very broad chest. Um, but I don't know anything about these stories, but I assume that they are full of Silver Age fun, as the Silver Age was often a place where superheroes kind of did a little bit more kind of ridiculous things. And there's always that one issue of the Flash where he's like super fat that I remember of. Um, Otto Binder is also the co-creator of the Legion of Superheroes. That's very cool, and that's probably why Supergirl and Superman also, or Superboy, I should say, shows up there. Who's this guy? Superman with an MM on his chest. That's different. We have some maybe politically incorrect Native Americans right there. Streaky the Super Cat. Will Streaky, now that Crypto is going to be in a movie, will we see Streaky? Speaking of Crypto, there he is right there. Uh-oh. It's yep. Supergirl gets fat. Every single superhero has to face this issue every once in a while. Um, oh, it's because of Mr. Mix's Pitlick. That's so funny. That's funny that I randomly turned to that page. Looks like we get some Lex Luthor action in here as well. This is a dense book. It's going to take a little while to get through this, but it should be fun. I like this. She, to disguise herself, she puts on a brown wig. And oh, I don't know. Something's happening with this story because we also have a orange-haired Supergirl here. So just wild. Who knows what's going on here? Superman shows up quite often through these pages, which is cool. That's great. Supergirl, Super Pet. Thumbs up or thumbs down for this one? I think this is going to be a thumbs up. I'm looking forward to reading it. I'm just got a few more issues of Catwoman to go, and then I'll dive right into this one here. Very excited for DC Finest Supergirl. I can tell from your shirt there, Kenneth, that you are, generally speaking, a Superman or Super Family fan. How many DC Finest volumes have been released now, and what is your favorite volume so far? 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. I guess 11. This is 12. I think this is 12, right? Because the five for November, five for December, and then Aquaman in this one. So yeah, this is 12. Um, my favorite is still Batman. That one I really enjoyed. I thought it was excellent the whole way through. Um, well, what other ones have we released? I also really like The Flash, and I really liked Justice Society of America. So all over the map. There's ones from every era that I've really appreciated. I mean, they've all been pretty good. I think the one that I've liked the least maybe is 0 Hour, just because that one was a weird, uneven read, since it's kind of pulling random, not random, but one issue out of storylines for each of the secondary characters, and so it was a little disjointed that way. But it was good. When do you come across the legion of super pets and space canine patrol agents? The Silver Age was nuts. Yeah, I'm looking forward to experiencing that. Absolutely. I hope that's in a Legion of Superhero volume that we'll get soon. Yeah, two thumbs up from Kenneth, and a thumbs up, and also nocturnal greetings from Germany. Thank you, Rudiger. Okay, that's it for my DC content for this stream. Should we turn it over to Marvel and see what's in the Marvel box? I think there are two Epic collections in here today. Let's see what's in store. Oh, this isn't an epic collection. This is a thin book. Let's see what this is. They sent me a copy of Miles Morales' Blood Hunt. If you've been reading the Blood Hunt story, which is the return of Dracula to the Marvel Universe, this is the tie-in issues with for Miles Morales. And let me see here. Corey Ziegler is the writer. Oh, Cody. Cody Ziegler is the writer. Brent Peoples and Daniel Picciotto and Federico Vincentini on art. So we have a few different artists in there collecting Miles Morales Spider-Man numbers 21 to 26 and material from Miles Morales Spider-Man Annual number 1. And there looks like Blade right on the back cover. Does he turn into a vampire in this book? I guess you have to read it to find out. Or maybe I'll randomly point to a page where that might happen. But looks like he's kind of jumping through the multiverse, maybe? I don't recognize a lot of these characters. Miles Morales is pretty new to me. That looks like the Vulture. I am looking forward to the very first Miles Morales Epic Collection that's coming out in just a couple of months, I think. Maybe next month, maybe in February. Um, but that's what is this? Disco. It's the Dazzler variant. That's kind of cool. Um, Thin Trade. I've read the Blood Hunt series and it was pretty good. So I'll check out this one now that I have the tie-in, and we'll see. Um, when does this one go on? These are all. Let me see here. All of these books are going to go on sale. What does my spreadsheet say? February 18. So that's yeah, February 18. You can find that Miles Morales Blood Hunt. Okay, we've got two classic epic collections. One of them is when I say classic, I still mean the 90s, which some people don't consider classic. But oh, there's a funny comment from Phil here. Streaky, the super cat, is better than Miles Morales. Yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy, Quest for the Shield. This is volume 2 of the Guardians of the Galaxy series. Um, I guess you can't really see. But anyway, this is collecting material. It says 1978 to 1990, but I don't. Is that right? Oh, yeah, because this is going to be. Yes. The Korvac saga, one of the most reprinted stories in Marvel history, the Korvac saga, in which the Guardians of the Galaxy played a role. So they put the whole story in here. Now, the Guardians don't actually appear in all of these issues. But they are, but they have they have a hand in the story as a whole. This deals with a being named Michael Korvac who um has some pretty extra dimensional powers and is poised to take over the universe if he's not too careful. So there's a lot of moving parts here. Um, I honestly haven't read this in like probably 15 years. I know it came out recently in an Avengers Epic collection, which I haven't read yet. But I used to have the old yellow trade paperback. Did it? I think it might have had this cover to it, which was the Korvac saga. It had yellow spine, and I need to reread this story because I remember so little about it. But it is one of those classic Avengers stories that everybody seems to remember. Let's see what else is in this book. Miss Marvel number 23. Let's see what page that's on. Miss Marvel 23, it's on page 204. Ah, yes. The Woman Who Fell to Earth. One of the last chapters, one of the last issues in her series, written by Chris Claremont with pencils by Mike Vosberg. and then also Marvel Team Up, a couple issues of Marvel Team Up in which they guest star. And so Starhawk is in this one. No, Marvel 2-in-1. So Marvel 2-in-1 and Marvel Team Up. Let's see. Marvel Team Up 86, Marvel 2-in-1 61 through 63. So a three-part story in Marvel Team Up, plus another one in 69. So there's four issues of Marvel 2-in-1 in this book here. And then also Guardians of the Galaxy, the 90s series. Um, there's one of the team ups, the Marvel 2-in-1s. Um, the first six issues of the brand new, at the time, it was brand new, not brand new anymore. Where's the start of it? The series by Jim Valentino. Here is the cover. There you go. Never seen this cover. I think that they solicited this with a different cover, if I remember. I can't remember, but this one was delayed for like a year. It was supposed to come out around this time last year, and it got pushed and pushed and pushed. So glad it's finally coming out. I do think they changed the cover image. That's the volume with a lot of double dipping if you collect Avengers in it, isn't it? Okay, so yes, the first 200 pages, in fact. And this book is about 500 pages. The first 200 pages is Korvac Saga. So there you go. This much of the book here is double dipping. That's about pretty close to half, at least, actually. Uh, and if you also collect the Miss Marvel series, then that much is double dipping. We don't have Marvel Team Up, but we are going to have eventually all of the Marvel 2-in-1 issues, which means you're only left with this much Guardians of the Galaxy's numbers 1 through 6. 6 issues that will be unique to this book here, which is too bad. But if you're only collecting Guardians of the Galaxy, you'll love it. Um, I have the Korvac saga, but haven't got around to reading it yet. It's in my to be read pile. It was actually an episode of the Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes cartoon that put me onto it. Oh, yeah. Korvac is a villain who has somehow never produced a good story. And here's another of Shooter's all power blank slates. And he's another of Shooter's all powerful blank slates. There you go. Yeah. Kind of reminds me of who's the one who's Sentry. It's kind of like Sentry. The Marvel 2-in-1 issues lay the groundwork for the Marvel Boy Justice character from New Warriors Avengers. Interesting. Okay. Um, 41 watching the finest epic collector. Who the heck are you? Do you think Marvel event epics will follow omnibus mapping where the event is first and the tie-ins are in the back? I can tell you that that might depend on a case-by-case scenario, but in the terms of Annihilation, we already have the we already have the mapping for the first volume, and it doesn't even include the Annihilation miniseries. The whole volume is stuff that comes before, and so the Annihilation miniseries will be an Annihilation Epic Volume 2. So I think that follows the pattern of or the mapping of the Omni. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Valentino series is pretty fun. An attempt at doing a Bronze Age comic in the 90s. Thankful I have the completes, so don't have to double dip. That's true. All of the Guardians of the Galaxy 90 series was collected in a number of trades. I think 6 of them. 3 of them were called Guardians of the Galaxy by Jim Valentino, and then the last 3 after Valentino left the book were called Guardians of the Galaxy in the year 3000, and those comprise the whole 90s series that the epics are now just starting on. Oh, Marvel 2-in-1, except the Doc Savage issue. Yeah, you're right. That one's not in there. Um, Looking forward to the Annihilation Modern Epics. Yes, me too. I've been loving the Guardians of the Galaxy Modern Epics, so that's my first entry into the modern cosmic Marvel. So looking forward to seeing where it all kind of started. Okay, so that one's that. That one's there for right now. The last one in this box is another 90s book, X-Force. X-Force Epic Collection Volume 4, Toy Soldiers. Fabian Nicieza, um, 1993 to 1998. Look who's on the back. That's some of Omar's favorite characters from New Warriors. Let's see here. Matt Broom, Tony Daniel? Yes, Tony Daniel, Dwayne Turner, Aaron Weisenfeld, who is no longer in comics. Aaron Weisenfeld is a fine art painter now, and he does some really creepy, eerie work. Very atmospheric and moody. I encourage you to check it out. Aaron Weisenfeld, Derek Robertson, Paul Pelletier, Mike Wieringo, Brendan McKinney, and Arnie Jorgensen. Very cool. I love those. That's a great cast of artists there. Let's see. This collects X Force numbers 29 through 39, Annual number 3, Cable 6 to 8, and New Warriors 45 and 46. Now, um, uh, this is a book that was supposed to come out in like I think next week, but it got pushed, so it's going to be coming out February 18. So, but it's coming out, and let's take a look inside. Very over the top action, as is the normal for X Force of this era. Cable has returned. He was hopping around time in the previous volume, and now he's back with the gang. And this does collect issues 6 to 8, but the previous volume only collected issues 1 to 4. So we're missing volume 5, which tells you that we're not going to see a lot of Cable issues in the X Force Epic collections, only when they specifically tie into the story. So that's what we see here. What's going on in these stories? I don't actually know. Let's read the back here. The maniacal Rainfire rebuilds the Mutant Liberation Front, which was Strife's team. And when the MLF kidnaps Henry Peter Gyrick, X-Force must deal with the situation, but the battle will cost the team two of its own. Spoiler alert. Then Arcade tests Shatterstar and Extreme to their limits. Extreme, I think I remember that character. Um, I turning to a random page is not going to help me out here. The '90s most popular teen team collides when X Force and New Warriors are caught up in the Upstarts final game. Oh, and this has the Phalanx Covenant issues as well. So look at that. There's Speedball for you in all his '90s hair glory. There you go. This has some really nice reproduction. Um, the color holds on here are nice and crisp. Sometimes in these, especially with the '90s stuff, especially once it got to digital, which these comics are starting to get to that era. The reproduction isn't as great, and they weren't able to reproduce the color hold lines as crisp and clear. But this one looks really good. All of the reproduction here looks excellent. Um, Here's the Mike Wieringo. This is some early stuff from him, so it doesn't quite fit his style, but that is him. There's the Phalanx Covenant with Tony Daniel as the artist. I think this is one of the only X Force issues I have is this one right here, because I was a big Generation X fan, which started in Phalanx Covenant, so I bought all of those Phalanx issues. And yeah, some pretty iconic poses there. Cannonball. Um, Strong Guy is in this one for whatever reason. I don't remember. Probably because this ties over with X Force. But this is the only Phalanx Covenant issue in this book. It doesn't have any of the other parts. In the Mutant Liberation Front, I thought we were the Mutant People's Front. Extreme first appeared in annual number 3, which is in this book. So let's see if we can find him. I think I remember what this guy looks like. Annual number 3 is on page. Mm, I can't find it. Annual number 3, 382. There, that extreme right there. Was this the year where they were? I don't know this character at all. I think I'm thinking of Adam X. I do not know that character. Uh, I think this was maybe the year where all of the annuals were introducing new characters. Oh, that's Moonstar. Yeah, of course. That's not. That's not. What am I thinking? Uh, oh, an epic number 3. I'm reading the wrong thing. So he's introduced an epic number 3, which I've only read like a part of so far. I got to catch up on that one. Yeah, I should have guessed with the bow and arrow that was Moonstar. Never seen her in that costume before. That's kind of interesting. Some great pinups. I think that this title stayed pretty strong through this era. A lot of fans of it, a lot of people. It had great. I remember it had great sales in the '90s when it was first coming out. People were really loving it. So this should be, and this is stuff that's been printed before. It was in like the Premier Classics, the hardcover series. It has an omnibus collection, and now we're getting it in Epic collections as well. So there you go. Um, Yes, X-Force, some excellent underrated work by Fabian Nicieza during this era. I feel like kind of all of Fabian Nicieza's work is underrated. It doesn't get he's a great writer. I really like his storytelling, and he doesn't get a lot of a lot of attention for it. I mean, he's the guy that followed um Chris Claremont, so that's got to be um that's got to be big shoes to fill. What years, you ask? 1993 to 1994. So this is, of course, being volume 4. It's a few years into their series. Um, Issues 27 to 39. So yeah, 94. So right at the end of this is right when they started kind of switching to the glossy paper stock, and computer coloring, computer separations started being kind of a normal thing there, and you saw um, artists that were a little bit more influenced by manga or more cartoony kind of cartooning, like Mark Riengo is one of those guys whose artwork is in this book here. So there you go. Fabian Nicieza was unfortunately occasionally overshadowed by the artists he worked with. For instance, Rob Liefeld. That's true. The '90s did have a big focus and a shift in focus, I think, um, from writer to artist, which yeah, and they caused the artists to be superstars, which I think kind of led to the formation of Image through all of the artists that left Marvel to form that company. But anyway, this is what we have today. We have a question here. With Ultimate Epic Collections coming soon, do you think we'll get 2099 epics? Um, that's a hard. I think Spider-Man's a shoe-in for sure. Spider-Man and Doom, especially because they were two big sellers. I don't know how the X-Men 2099 Omni sold. It's a good question. I'm not sure. If that one sold well, then they might dip into the other series. But um, I'm not sure exactly how they would do that because there are characters like Hulk only had like 6 or 8 issues. Fantastic Four, Ghost Rider, you could get maybe one epic full of them. But some of those other ones you'd have to maybe crown them in. Actually, they could put Fantastic Four in the Doom 2099 epic collections. I know they included X Nation 2099 in the X Men omnibus, so that would make a good fit there. But they might only pick one or two of the titles to give us in Epic Collection. I'm not sure. I don't know. Otherwise, they'll be really, really small, like the Planet of the Apes Epic. Do you happen to know the reason why DC Finest collections are not available for purchase digitally? Sorry, I don't actually know. Um, I have no idea. It's not something that I've been able to figure out. And I don't know if it's because, um, yeah, I have no idea. Uh, I have asked, but I never got a response to my question, so don't know. We are starting to creep into the AOA timeline. I wonder if, um, no. So this one doesn't it doesn't end with the issue right before. Let's see, where is so if that's the Phalanx Covenant is 38, 39. Yeah, this is a couple of issues before Age of Apocalypse. A lot of great up and coming artists on X Force and Cable back then. Tony Daniel, Joe Madriera, you name them. Never got X Force back then, but enjoy it today. That's good. You've probably answered this before, but who are your favorite big two mainstream artists and writers, past or present? Past or present? Well, my favorite artist is always Chris Bichello. Absolutely love that guy because I was a big Generation X fan during the day, um, and he's just great. Uh, I mean, I guess by mainstream you're saying I can pick stuff outside of like Marvel and DC because man, like I bring up this all the time. Milton Caniff, who did Terry and the Pirates, one of my favorites. He's so good. Um, but that is that what you mean by mainstream? He was very, very mainstream back in the 1930s and 40s and 50s when he was doing Terry and the Pirates and Steve Canyon. Excellent artist. Alex Raymond is another one who did Flash Gordon and Rip Kirby. He's really good. He died really young. Um, but if we're sticking to Marvel and DC, I really like Bill Mantlow's work. Um, and why am I blanking on names now? Of course, Jack Kirby is an awesome artist. Love him. And gotta look around to see. I always enjoy Steve Englehart, even though he gets kind of weird sometimes. Steve Gerber, who's very weird, is always fun to read. Um, Gene Colan is an incredible artist. I always love his stuff. Even the stuff in the '90s when he was, at the end of his career. Modern artists, I can't remember if I showed this off last time or not. I got a really nice drawing from Russell Dodderman of White Queen, and he was on X-Men for a lot of the Hellfire Gala stuff, and he did the Jane Foster Thor storyline in Jason Aaron's Thor, and he's super good. Amazing artist, incredibly talented, really, really gifted. And now all he does these days is covers, which is too bad. Um, I like him to do some more interiors, but he's become a very hot commodity for variant covers. When are those epic announcements? Hope all is well, man. You received the 50th epic, and you just ordered 50 more. Holy moly, that is incredible. Did you get the DC versus Marvel or Amalgam Omnis? That material probably won't make it into Epic or DC Finest, so I did get the Marvel versus DC one. Proof right there. And I've read some of it too, but that one's going to take a while to go through. It's not one that I. This is my problem with omnis is that they're just intimidating because of their size. So when I say I want to read a book, I'm not tempted to pick up the huge ones. Uh, I um I have the amalgam one on order too. X-Men 2099 had 35 issues, some double-sized pages. If you add X Nation, you could get two epics. Yeah, I think that'd be great. A nice two epic series of X-Men 2099 would be nice. I'd love to see Marvel cut more one-time deals to print more of their licensed books. Uh, there was that underrated work done on books like Shogun Warriors, Battlestar Galactica, and 90 Star Trek. Yeah, I mean, they would have to get a I don't know. It all depends on the exclusivity because, especially Star Trek has been with IDW for a while, and if their contract is exclusive, then no, Marvel won't be able to cut a one-time deal. But if it's not exclusive, then they could, but not sure if they would do that. But I would like to see some more of that stuff. Um, just the fact that we're getting more, like Godzilla and Rom and stuff. I think just the fact that we're seeing those means that Marvel is reaching out to these people, and who knows, they might have asked all of those people who own those properties already, Battlestar Galactica, then they might have already asked them. Maybe the company said no. Oh yeah, you were just talking the waves, the Claremonts. Yeah, Claremont. I do appreciate his stuff like X-Men and whatnot, but I can't say that he's actually my favorite. I think there were others that I would definitely call more of my favorites. So yeah, I mentioned people um, Steve Gerber and um, some people are going to rag me on this, but I actually really like Scott Lobdell. I think he's great. Brian Michael Bendis, I also really like. People say people don't like him, but for some reason, every comic that I've read by his, I've really enjoyed. So can't say that he's bad in my book. Um, I don't mind hearing about lesser known artists and writers too. You can look them up. Well, look up Milton Caniff. He's really great. One of the best comics of all time is Terry and the Pirates. Ultra Mega Nicola. Okay, Umno. Hi, Curtis. Just caught a live stream for the first time in a while. What have you missed? Well, let's see. You missed. We're just chatting at this point, but you missed X Force Epic Collection Volume 4, Toy Soldiers, and you missed Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 2, Quest for the Shield. And this is a thin trade of Miles Morales' Spider-Man Blood Hunt. And where did Supergirl go? I lost it. Oh, I put it over here. And then this one here, where he showed off a little bit of DC Finest Supergirl. So those are the ones we were talking about today. I'm always amazed about how quick you seem to be reading all this stuff. You know what? I try my best. Most of the time, I don't make it all the way through a book before I have to start on another one. Just so I could plow through and wait and get through to the very end, but um, but they come out so quick, and I want to be semi knowledgeable about all of the stuff. So I try to read as much as I can to get a good point. The modern era ones I've been reading from start to finish all the way through because I'm so lost in that era. I really and same with the DC Finest. I'm trying to get a good handle on that stuff since I just am not as knowledgeable. So making those a priority over things that I've read before, like Fantastic Four and such. So um, those ones I have been reading. I've read 100% of the modern era, modern Marvel. Yeah, the Marvel Epic Collections, modern era stuff. Oh, except for Spider Girl Volume 5. I started that one. I'm like, I'm missing a lot here. I should probably wait until the other volumes come out. There's a wide range of quality in the Marvel DC Omnis, but you get an occasional gem such as New X-Men, Teen Titans, and Batman Captain America. You mean, yeah, the Marvel DC Omni? Yeah, X-Men Teen Titans I've always loved. I think that one's a great one. I have one of the reissues, not an original print, but they reprinted it at one point, and I got a copy of that, and it's one that I've loved for a long time. Um, but yeah, some of those but that's not why we're getting it, right? We're getting it for posterity and because there's just some fantastic artwork all throughout, and just the fact that these two companies came together to do something amazing is worth supporting. I know what you mean about the size being intimidating at times. Sometimes it's nice to read a more manageable book, and that is why I am always saying epics are the way to go. Same with DC Finest. Even this one, with my aging hands, that I don't know if I'm developing arthritis in some of my joints here, but even that one gets a little heavy to hold. But it's better than Omni's. Okay, let's see here. Hey, Jeff. I'm with you about those huge Omnis. I've got all this Golden and Silver Age DC Omnis, but some are mammoth. I'm really loving DC Finest format and size. Much easier to read. Have you read the God Loves Man Kills Epic Collection yet? I've read some of it. I haven't read all the way through it yet. But man, that first story is really, really gay. Yeah, you missed Streaky the Super Cat. I love that graphic novel. Man, God Loves Man Kills. What a different, like, if you've been reading X-Men all throughout, it's just like I it's so different and like mature and I don't know, just a little bit more advanced in the way that it tells its story. Maybe because they had the length to tell a longer story in one sitting rather than breaking it up into chapters. But um, yeah, it's super super good. Have you read much of Jim Valentino's Guardians of the Galaxy? No, that was a title I never had any interest in when I was growing up because it's like, who the heck are these characters? I'll pass, and um, and I never got around to it. So now's my time. Now's the chance to do it. Similar to that previous question, any creators you didn't like originally, but now look at in a better light? Um, I'd say maybe I'd say reading the DC Finest Superman has definitely brought Jerry Siegel into a different light because I kind of wrote him off as an old writer who was who was pretty amateur and stuff. And when because I was comparing again the Superman to his contemporary Milton Caniff with Terry and the Pirates, which is the best. And so when I was comparing those, it's like, well, obviously this one's good and that one's bad. But reading through the DC Finest Superman stuff, like that was actually a really, really good book. I super enjoyed it. Let's see here. Again, I say you've got to make the trip to Billy Ireland because of its original vintage comic art heaven. I would love to. Absolutely, 100%. I like Scott Lobdell too. Came into comics at X-Men at the tail end of the Claremont era. So Nicieza and especially Lobdell are the reason I love him so much. Yeah, I think I might be in that same boat there too. DC Finest look good on a shelf, but it doesn't beat the Epic collections. You are correct. Oh, I answered that one already. I'm struggling to get through Children of the Atom. Honestly, I would suggest just skipping ahead a little bit. Um, get and skipping ahead to the end of Volume Two. There are some killer issues at the end of Volume Two with Jim Steranko, and if you start reading there, and then Volume Three is really good. Sorry, I mean Volume Three. Read it. Skip to the end of Volume Three, and then the title is canceled. And the in between stuff in Volume Four, there's some really good content in there too. The Beast story by Steve Englehart is really great. Some really good Captain America issues, and then honestly, if you want to skip right ahead to Volume Five with Second Genesis with a giant size X-Men, there's nothing wrong with that. The early X-Men issues, like there is a reason why it was canceled. It was just kind of dragging. It wasn't it wasn't as great. Um, when is the next Marvel Art of campaign launching on Kickstarter? Can you give any hints about the subject? Um, we are just waiting for some final yeses from Marvel before we can launch that, but it's going to be very soon, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. Uh, hints. I don't know if I'm allowed to give any hints, any obvious hints. This is an artist who worked with Venom a lot, Venom and Carnage. So if you like those characters, this Kickstarter is going to be right up your alley. Modern is a modern artist, and he is super talented. So I'm not going to say any more than that. Maybe you can figure it out from those comments. We'll have to see. Web slinging Matt, thanks for a comment. So, should we expect a cable line of Epic since they skipped issue 5? Did Blood and Metal miniseries ever get put into a previous volume? Yes, Blood and Metal is at the beginning of X-Force Volume 1. The beginning or no, not X-Force Volume 1. X-Force Volume 2, the one with Executioner. Blood and Metal. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's in this one here. There you go. So if we do get a cable line, which I hope they do because there's some really good stuff there, um, they uh they will probably double dip quite heavily with this book here because the Executioner's song is pretty essential to Cable's story, especially considering Strife, the character that's the villain in that one. So I'm gonna guess that if we do get a Cable line, which I hope that we do, there will be some double dipping. But then eventually, especially once Cable and X Force kind of part ways and do their own thing, those volumes will be worth picking up for sure. God Loves Man Kills Epic might be the single greatest epic volume of all time. A plus stories from start to finish. Yeah, you're not wrong about that. It is really, really solid, especially with the Wolverine mini and that era of X Men is just so good. Looking forward to that Supergirl book. The material will, I'm sure, be both just wild, both good and bad. But like how the content, unlike the Silver Age Omnis, isn't just the Action Comics issues. Yes, you're right. They do include the Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane stories in there as well. But you like how the contents are a little bit different. That's what you meant. Yeah, that's right. I'm not selling the Kickstarter. Yeah, most of those Kickstarters are modern artists, so I don't expect that they will be up your alley, Phil. However, there is one Kickstarter, Marvel related Kickstarter, not an art book, that will be up your alley, and I'll be sure to share that with you because I think that you will appreciate that one quite a bit. Any guesses when we'll hear about the next batch of DC Finest? I think we'll be seeing those start to trickle out probably within a few weeks, maybe in February. But that info is going to be coming out pretty soon because we're getting very close to the catalog release date, which I think is in March, which means we'll get more Epic Collection announcements pretty soon too. I think Terry and the Pirates is like a well-produced Beatles album, and early Superman is more like the Ramones filled with raw, unpolished energy. That is so funny. Yeah, you are probably right about that. Um, that's hilarious. Um, let's see here. Whoa, do you like the chances of a Darkhawk epic line in the near future? I don't, are the chances good? You know what? I don't know about that. That character, while he's pretty cool, doesn't have a great track record with his own series and such. He's a character that has never really caught on terribly. So, uh, I think that if they're going to do a big story in the current continuity with Darkhawk and they give him a major starring role, then maybe we'll get an epic collection to kind of supplement that. I think that's probably our only hope when it comes to that. Wish they would do a reprint of Bishop's Crossing. Yeah, a bunch of people really want that one. I know that Omar has placed his the Epic Collection reprint poll live stream on the schedule for February, so that'll be coming up. I don't remember what the exact date is on that, but it'll be coming up soon. So pay attention to that. We run that poll every year, and then we tally up all of the totals, and we send that over to our contact with Marvel. And Marvel, in the past years, has used that as their basis for reprinting Epic Collections. So at least um, the top 10 or 15, if not the whole top 20, has been reprinted from there. So you can get your vote in and make yourself known, and hopefully we'll be able to get you the Epic collection that you want. Do you think book catalogs want the books too far in advance for their catalogs? So here's the thing. It used to be that you'd only need maybe 3 or 4 months to solicit a title, and then it would come out in the comic shops, right? This change to having it almost a year in advance is because Marvel and DC are now publishing with bigger publish are now partnering with bigger publishers for distribution. In the book market, you need a longer lead time because rather than them just rather so Diamond would put out a catalog and the comic shops would get it. They flip through the catalog and they order the books that they want. Um, with with the book market, and this is stuff that's not comic shops. This is stuff that goes out to like Barnes and Noble and other bookstores. The distributors actually have representatives that go and pitch the books and sell the books. Like they have sales agents that go and try and sell the books, and they need that amount of time to to pre-sell a lot of that material and get those numbers up. That helps them with larger, printing larger print runs, and the larger the print run that you can get, um, the the cheaper it is per unit for the books to have. And the book market is a little bit different because bookstores, and I believe it still works this way. I don't think it's changed. Bookstores can return books to the distributor for a refund. So if a bookstore like Barnes and Noble orders 50 copies of Spider-Man Epic Collection and they only sell 10 of them, then they can ship the ones back to the distributor. And oftentimes, those are the copies that we'll see wind up liquidated and remaindered and that kind of stuff. Um, if Comic shops don't do that. Diamond doesn't do refunds. So if a comic shop buys 20 copies of a Spider-Man Epic Collection, they are stuck with those. That is money that they have spent, and that's why it's hard for comic shops to survive that way, because especially if people are ordering stuff in their saver boxes and then never picking them up. Well, that's just hundreds of dollars sitting in the saver box that a comic shop has already spent the money on that they're not getting back. Um, and so it's a different world, and that's why the salespeople really go out there, and do a good job of promoting the books and getting them out into the bookstores, or they hopefully they do. I find that bookstores are still a little reluctant to buy more than one or two copies of any given trade paperback or comic related book. They just aren't big sellers in the regular book market at the moment. But because because Marvel's being distributed by Penguin Random House, that's what they got to do. They have to follow those rules, and so they have to let everybody know like a year in advance what books they intend to publish. Um, and I think this is the way Clover is working as well. This might be the way the Marvel works. We have to pitch our slate of books to the distributor as well, um, and the distributor kind of has to give a little okay. Because if the distributor thinks, no, this isn't a book that we're going to be able to sell or that we want to sell, then there's no point in publishing it if the distributor is not going to going to want to carry it. So there's got to be a partnership there too. So I wonder if Marvel and Penguin Random House have that similar kind of a deal, or not deal, but relationship. X-Men Volume 16 would win if the poll was on April 1st. Yes. Where do you think modern Fantastic Four epics will start? Personally, I think it'll either be Wade or Hickman, since those always sell. I'm fairly certain it will be Wade, just because that was kind of the big shift in terms of storytelling for them. Uh, what was before Wade? Was Straczynski before Wade or after Wade? I think it was. Now I can't remember because the Miller Hitch run, I think, is after Wade as well. All of that stuff, Straczynski, Wade, Hitch, or Miller, those runs I think will all be modern. Will you and Omar have the info on upcoming Epic reprints before the Epic reprint poll? No idea. Marvel hasn't sent us anything yet. We've been asking, but I don't know what's up with the reprints at all. I have no idea. What's a collection slash volume of old horror comics you would recommend to a newbie? Like EC seems interesting, but I have no idea what book. Okay, so this is a great question. I do like this question. Um, let's see here. You want like so old horror? You're talking like Golden Age horror, Golden Age and Silver Age. I got to get my horror books here because I've got a bunch. Okay, give you a little crash course in EC Comics, just because you asked nicely. EC Comics was a publisher that dealt with a whole ton of different stuff. They didn't do just crime. They had their hands in a lot of stuff. In fact, EC used to stand for Educational Comics, and they did some other stuff, including like, and let me see here. They always have the ads for them in these comics. Let's see if I can find one in these reprints. They keep the advertisements. Picture stories of science, picture stories of history, picture stories from American history, and picture stories from the Bible. So that was their education line. They did that. And then also they found great success in horror comics. And that's the stuff that has stood the test of time and is especially infamous because these are the comics that the that society kind of cracked down on the comic book industry when they introduced the comic code because these stories were so horrific, showing things like dead bodies on the covers and that kind of stuff. And they had so many different lines, and they're kind of all kind of the same in terms of their tone, even though they have different titles. This one is called Crime Suspense Stories because it focuses on crime related horror. This one is weird science, and even they're horror stories, but they're more science fiction based. Vault of Horror is more taking a look at the human condition. Um, Shock suspense stories and Tales from the Crypt, I think, is the most famous one. Tales from the Crypt features more kind of ghouls and demons and that kind of stuff. Um, Shock suspense story is the one I want to point out the most because this one is kind of like a grab bag. It takes stories from all of the different books and gives you a sample. So one issue will have a short story. Let's see here. This one is a crime suspense story. It says at the bottom, and then you go to the next story, which is 8 pages later, and then you get a war suspense story, and then this one here is a science fiction suspense story. So if you want a grab bag, you want to just test something out, I would recommend Shock Suspense Story. And then from there, you can see which of the stories you really like, and then you can follow it up with getting some of the other volumes that are more specific and tailored to your liking. So that's what you want to do with these ones. There's other stuff as well, like let's see, I gotta Marvel just put out, sorry, not Marvel, Fantagraphics just put out this book called The Atlas Comics Library #1 Adventures into Terror. And it is horror stories from the 1950s in a very similar vein to EC Comics. In fact, these were the contemporary comics, but published by Atlas, who would be known by Marvel in later years. So this is a hardcover collection that has 12 issues. No, maybe just 8 issues. I can't remember how many issues are in here. Um, yeah, 8 issues of the title called Adventures into Terror. And it's pretty good. I don't think the stories hit as hard as they do in EC Comics, but they're still, a lot of fun if you like the old school horror stuff. And then of course there there's Creepy and Eerie, and these are magazines, not comics, so they're treated a little bit differently. You can get away with a little bit more in terms of just the maturity level of the stories. These ones are great because they are all black and white. Um, which really shows off certain artists in different light, and so you can get away with doing a little bit more stuff with like ink washes and that kind of thing. These stories are really good. So they're all again anthology short stories, um, but they're all kind of horror based. A lot of them dealing with just the evil twistedness of humans. Um, but yeah, some really good stuff. They look really wordy, but this was it's all worth it. So Dark Horse has been pumping these books out, The Creepy and Eerie. Oh, by the way, they're two different titles. Oh, I pulled two creepy volumes. I meant to pull a Creepy and an Eerie. They're pretty much the same book. I don't really know what the difference is between the two, except an excuse to just publish more horror stories. Uh, and so you can grab any volume. You don't have to start at volume one because there's no continuity. It's just all an anthology story. So you can just go for that. Let's see. That's kind of all that I have in my collection, I think, in terms of old school horror. Um, it's hard to tell sometimes. Yeah, I think that might be it. So, if you want other suggestions, I'm sure other people can. Um, but yeah, Dark Horse has been pumping out the creepy and eerie and EC comics in soft cover, and they've been great. Um, it can get a little monotonous. I've I got about I got about 20 volumes in and then decided to stop, mainly because DC Finest was coming out, so I'm putting my dollars over there instead. Because it does get kind of repetitive and monotonous a little bit. Um, I mean, they're all great stories, but they all follow a very similar kind of pattern that you can kind of almost predict at the end, but still worth reading at least a few of those volumes. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Modern FF will probably start with Wade. Before that is the Heroes Return stuff. Yeah, that's right. So Heroes Return um is definitely part of the classic line. I say definitely, but we still don't have well, I guess we have we're getting the very first Heroes Return era Thor book coming out in this year. So um yes, we do know the Heroes Return stuff is coming in the classic side of the Epic collections. I've been collecting the EC Archive soft covers from Dark Horse. Love the format. Yep, so good. Warren from Australia. Hi, Warren. Just got back into comics in my retirement and have forsaken Omnis for Epics and now DC's finest. Yes, very good. Um, I'm glad that you are enjoying that. I look forward to the time when I can be retired and just read comics all day. I think that seems like the best time. Thanks for the explanation. You're welcome. I hope it was helpful. All of those comics were better when we had them on a monthly basis, gave you room to breathe. Yeah, I'm sure that yeah, they were never meant to be read in a huge collections. In fact, were never really meant to be collected month after month either. It was like they published a whole ton of content in the hopes that somebody would stumble across them at a corner store or something like that. But yeah, if you read it on a monthly basis, you'd just get like the four stories, and then you'd wait for a month before the next one came out. And that's probably the way to read it as well. I've been all in on Finest so far, but I'm going to have to be choosier if I'm going to afford the upcoming Ultimate Epics along with them. My wallet can only handle so much, and I'm a big Ultimate fan. Yeah, Chuck, that you are right. So it is a big investment because on average there are, if you're talking modern and classic Epic collections, there are probably about five per month. On average. Sometimes there's a few more, sometimes there's a few less, but usually it's about five per month. That is a lot. And then three, right now there are three DC Finest per month. That's kind of the schedule that they're falling into, three per month. So that is a lot. If you're trying to get all epics and all DC Finest, we're talking, on average. 8 books per month. If you're paying full cover price at like, $40, that's quite a pretty penny. Even if you're getting the massive discounts from in-stock trades, that's still a lot. However, um, either you're buying one omnibus or you're buying five five or six epic collections. So yeah. Do any of those horror books have specific famous stories or works by important artists that people still recognize? Yeah, well, I mean, you want me to read you a list of the artists that are in Creepy? It's really, really great. Let's see here. The writers, Archie Goodwin. Here are names that you'll recognize for sure. Well, maybe Archie Goodwin is the only name you'll recognize. Artists, Dan Adkins, Gene Colan, Ernie Colon, Reed Crandall, Steve Ditko, Graham Morrow, Tom Sutton. So that's in Creepy. This other Creepy has Joe Orlando, Alex Toth, Al Williamson, Bob Lubbers, Jack Davis. Writers, Otto Binder. We were talking about Otto Binder earlier with Supergirl. Joe Orlando, who you know from like uh, Superman. I mean, Justice League. So yeah, I mean, it has all of those creators were doing work for a bunch of those different companies. Adventures into Terror. Some of the artists you'll see here include Russ Heath, Mike Sikowski from Justice League, George Klein, Alan Bellman, Chick Stone, who was an anchor for Jack Kirby for a long time, Gene Colan in here as well, um, Joe Maneely, who I read Stanley say that he was one of the best artists he's ever known. Sol Brodsky was one of the did some artwork in here, believe it or not. Joe Sinnott has some artwork in here. Again, another Kirby artist. Inker, I mean, all those inkers, they're artists, great artists in their own right. Doc, the Spence story has names you'll recognize as well. Wally Wood, Marie Severin, Jack Kamen, Jack Davis, Joe Orlando, Alex Toth. Yeah, just all of the names that you'd recognize from early '60s Marvel or mid '60s Marvel. They show up in all of those horror books as well. Mr. Tex, you're late to the party. Frank Frazetta often aided Al Williamson on his EC work. Yes, Frank Frazetta definitely. Um, yeah, there's also the Vampirella magazine as well. Those collections are out as well, horror based. Um, yeah, my tip for affording epics and finest is in stock trades. Yeah, if you're in the United States, that is correct. Um, I'm mad at Marvel for reprinting Amazing Spider-Man Epics 1, 2, 4, and 5 and 6, but not 3. So you have a gap. Well, let's hope that Volume 3 that never got reprinted. I was sure that it did, but maybe not. Yeah. Let's hope that it gets to the top of the list for reprints then. That would be great. Fantagraphics does a lot of artist specifics collections. EC collections, you mean? Yeah, they do. You're right. Epic Collections has been permanently discontinued in France. Why? Do you mean like the French Epic Collections? The ones that were like translated and such? Because that's a shame. That's really too bad. It just I don't know. Superheroes don't sell the same way overseas as they do in North America, do they? Uh, I think that UK has an incredible history of comics. Incredible. It just doesn't have anything to do with superheroes, but there are just some absolutely amazing comics to come out of the UK over the years. And It's too bad. I'm too. It's yeah for superhero fans. That's a shame. Yeah, that's really too bad. Amazing Spider-Man 3 was reprinted in July 2022. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought that it was reprinted, but it's probably out of print again. But yeah, I'm oh, he says sorry, January 2022. Yeah, I was pretty sure that number 3 had been reprinted. Okay, I'd love to have some Tomb of Dracula and Marvel team up epic collections. That would be great. I think that the Tomb of Dracula omnis are being reprinted, so that we have to wait for some of that selling window to go out before they bring it back in soft cover again. Do you think epic collections for X-Men will go until they reach Grant Morrison's new X-Men? And that will be the start of modern collections for X-Men. I do think so. Partly because that's kind of when the story has a hard stop. It doesn't really have a hard stop before that at all. It's kind of just keeps on going with both of those titles intertwined. Um, that Grant Morrison is definitely a new, fresh start. So it would be a very obvious place, and it would line up really well, of course, because um, we already have the new X Men Epic Collections, so it would line up really well with that. So having Uncanny start at that point makes sense to me. Speaking of Fantagraphics, they're getting ready to start putting a Lost Marvels line of books, starting with Tower of Shadows and then a Howard Chaykin volume. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's fantastic, and I'm glad that they had the guts to reach out to Marvel and say, "Hey, we know you don't have any interest in this stuff. Can we do it?" So, and I'm glad that Marvel said yes. Someone else asked this as well. Pardon me. How come no DM covers for epics? Love that Omnis and Mighty Marvel Masterworks does that. Anyone else agree? Yeah, great question. It would be great if we had some epics. You know why? Because then they could print um epics that have just a regular spine rather than an epic collection spine, so that if you release, let's say, Spider Girl Epic Collection Volume 5, you could get an alternate cover that matches the complete collections, and that would kind of be a nice little nod to um, the collectors who got burned because their old complete collection series never got completed. That'd be a good idea. Still been out of print for a year and a half. That's Volume 3 of Spider-Man. Yeah, that's too bad. I hope that you can find it somewhere. Do you plan to get the DC Marvel Amalgam Omnis? I got the DC versus Marvel. I mentioned that before you got here on the stream. Actually, someone asked me that as well. I showed it off. I have the DC versus Marvel one. Amalgam one is on the way. Those are kind of the only real ones that I'm going to be collecting. Do you have the PS art books of the Spirit? Do you like the colors? Okay, so PS Art Books is a company that deals mostly with public domain comics. So they don't have to worry about licensing and such. They do Golden Age comic reprints. And yes, they do have a license for the Spirit. I don't have any PS art books, but I have seen them, and I find that a lot of the times the restoration is not very good. I can't say that I'm really into the PS stuff that they pump out. Um, a lot of the times they just pull from some of those public domain comic databases, and they clean it up a little bit. But if the source material is lacking, then they don't really search around and try and find anything better. Or at least that's kind of what the impression that I get is. I'm not terribly impressed with what they're doing there. I have sworn they've already done a modern epic with Morrison's X-Men. Am I wrong? You are wrong. Sad to say. The only two modern epic collections that have been done for X-Men are, um, sorry, um, yes, Morrison's new X-Men is out. I'm talking about Joe Casey's Uncanny X-Men. That's what I'm talking about. I mix those up all the time. Morrison's new X-Men is out. And yes, I do think that the X-Men classic era will end at that point. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There we go. Yes. I remember the good old days when we never had a variant cover to play with completionist mentality. Yeah. Man, yeah, buying a $5 comic variant is one thing. Buying a $50 book or buying two $120 omnis because they have different covers is a little ridiculous. With Daredevil Born Again trailer out today, how long do you think it might be before the epics get to the Soul era of Daredevil? I think it's going to be a long time. If they seem to kind of be going in order a little bit, unless they really want to jump ahead. Um, I it might take a while, but it would be nice to jump around a little bit. Um, I've never read that modern stuff, so I'd be interested in doing it. Okay, I've been on for an hour and 16 minutes, so I think I gotta wrap this up and get some work done here. Um, do you think Spider-Man Cosmic Adventures Epic will be reprinted soon? It depends on the poll. Depends on how many people want it. So vote for it. And if Marvel says, "Oh yeah, I guess that's worth reprinting," then they will hopefully go for it. So, just to recap, today we talked about where did they go? We talked about EC comics. We talked about creepy and eerie. We talked about horror comics in the golden age. Talked a little bit about X-Force, but out of the new stuff that's coming out, Supergirl, DC Finest, this is in stores now, today. And here are some books coming out February 18th. This is a thin trade, Miles Morales, Spider-Man Blood Hunt. Also, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the Epic Collection, Quest for the Shield, and also X-Force Volume 4 Toy Soldiers. Those are the books that we talked about today in this one. I would appreciate it if you like this video. Like it. If you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe. I enjoyed talking with all of you today. It's been a really, really fun time answering all your questions and getting into stuff that I don't usually talk about, like EC Comics. I love it when people ask questions about that because um, I like talking about other stuff than just Marvel. So appreciate it, everybody. I hope you have a great evening.